and welcome back to my channel for this Saturday morning, afternoon or evening across the world where you may be at. And today I've got an update to my yesterday's video about the autistic girl who was arrested by West Yorkshire Police. Sky News released an update and I'll read it to you. Autistic teenager arrested in Leeds after police homophobia accusation will now face no further action. The 16-year-old was arrested in Leeds after being accused of making a homophobic comment to a police officer during a TikTok video which circulated on social media showing the arrest. A 16-year-old girl who was arrested after being accused of making a homophobic comment will now face no further action. The teenager was detained by 7 police officers outside her home in Leeds in early hours of August 7th. Her mother, who uploaded the footage of the incident to her TikTok account, said alongside the video that her autistic daughter had told her an officer had looked like her nana, who is a lesbian. West Yorkshire Police said it will take on board any lessons to be learned after the force was heavily criticised on social media. In a statement released on Friday, it said, in relation to an incident in Leeds on Monday where a 16-year-old girl was arrested on suspicion of homophobic public order offence, West Yorkshire Police has now reviewed the evidence and made the decision to take no further action. This concludes the criminal investigation and immediately releases the girl from her bail. Her family has since been updated. West Yorkshire Police's Professional Standards Directorate is continuing to carry out a review of the circumstances after receiving a complaint in relation to this incident. It says Assistant Chief Constable Oz Khan said the force recognises the significant level of public concern that this incident has generated and said officers moved swiftly to review all evidence. Oops, I did that. Without preempting the outcome of the ongoing review of the circumstances by our Professional Standards Directorate, we would like to reassure people that we will take on board any lessons to be learned from this incident. We do appreciate the understandable sensitivities around incidents involving young people and neurodiversity and are genuinely committed to developing how we can respond to these often very challenging circumstances. And that's the end of the article. So, West Yorkshire Police, I'm not being funny, but that is an absolute cop-out and you know it. The fact that you should have never detained the autistic girl to begin with is just completely outrageous and completely insane. The fact that the mother was heard repeatedly on the TikTok video telling you not to touch her, not to get in her space, not to speak to her, not to look at her because you would trigger her autism. And you still went against the mother's wishes, you still went against the girl's personal space boundary. You still detained her, you still took her outside of her comfort zone, her safe zone. You took her to a police station which was noisy, crowded, dirty. And imagine how heightened she was. Imagine how stressed out she was. She was already in a meltdown position. You still took her to a police station knowing full well that she wouldn't cooperate with you. So again, you've crossed boundaries, not just for her autism and her mental state of mind and her physical state. You've caused trauma to the mother, mental trauma to the girl as well. And I'm so glad that you are being investigated because never, ever, 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 ever should anything like this ever happen again. It should never have happened in the first place. For the officer in question that took this comment and said it was a public order offence, you're wrong. Because public order means it has to be outside of property. It didn't happen outside of property. It happened indoors. So therefore there is no Public Order Act allowed to happen. Because public orders have to be outside in the public. That's why it's called public order. So that's wrong to begin with. And the fact is, you said she was being homophobic. Yes, a little bit she was, yes. Because she made a comment that wasn't great. But she was in a meltdown. She was screaming. You could hear the distress of her voice. She was shaking. Therefore, you caused undue stress and undue mental torture to a girl who is a minor, who is mentally not compliant, doesn't understand what was happening, and the fact you took the law into your own hands and physically touched her and restrained her, knowing she had scoliosis and a twisted spine, which you could have done severe damage to her well-being, physically, on her back, on her arms, on her shoulders, on her head. You guys are disgusting. This is disgraceful. And to say that you are sorry that you're dropping it for no further action, what? How could you even have took this forward to be an official complaint anyway? It's absolutely absurd to me. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's after having social media backlash. Well, yeah, do you blame them? Because you've upset the autistic community. The autistic community sees one member of their community being hurt. We're gonna come for them and we're gonna defend them and help them. This girl is not verbal enough. This girl is mentally not capable of making her decisions. That clearly showed that on that video. She was self-harming. She was crying. She was destructing herself because you were stressing her out. You were causing her physical difficulties and coming into her environment where she was safe. You crossed the boundary. You crossed the line. So I'm glad that you have dropped this investigation. I really am glad that you've decided that there's nothing left to report or nothing left to be done. But the fact that there is more than 7 officers at her house grabbing hold of her, why the hell did you have to have 7 officers carry her? What the hell possessed you lot? It's absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Absolutely ridiculous. And then now you've said, we will take on board any lessons to be learned. Well, yeah, you should think. Are you serious? Like, of course you're going to take on lessons to be learned. Of course you are. You failed a autistic girl who is mentally challenged and delayed, and yet now you're saying, oh, we're sorry. It's a bit too late for that, don't you think? After you just caused us some mental damage and torment, really? And the fact you're claiming she was drunk. There's no evidence, again, that she was drunk. On that video, she was not drunk. She was not slurring her words. She wasn't threatening you. There was no indication that she was wobbling around or anything like that. She was not drunk. So where the hell you've got she was intoxicated from, I do not know. It's ridiculous. She clearly wasn't drunk. She was clearly scared. Yes, she shouldn't have been out on the streets after midnight. No, she shouldn't have been. But it happened. So you can't change the past. But, you know, you shouldn't have grabbed hold of it the way that you did. And I'm glad that your Standards Directorate is continuing a review after this incident. Of course you should be. Of course it's going to generate public interest. Of course it is. Because the autistic girl was threatened. Her mum was threatened and assaulted. And I hope to God her mum does carry through the punishment, because you shouldn't have assaulted her mum, let alone the autistic girl in question. That is absurd. That is just assault, and assault with a minor. So, you know, I cannot believe that now you're saying you're sorry when you knew you were in the wrong to begin with. And the officer, I hope to God, gets either suspended or fired, because she should not have hurt the autistic girl like she did. And to scream in her face, well, I don't care that you're autistic. What the actual hell? Are you serious? This shows how far behind you are on autism awareness. Like, you do not scream at an autistic person, let alone a minor who has the mind of a probably, she's 16, I'd say she probably has the mind of a 14-year-old, maybe a 12-year-old at the maximum, and yet you're screaming at her, I don't care you're autistic, you're getting arrested, you're getting arrested. How do you think that makes her feel? Frightened, anxious, scared, retaliation. You have set her triggers up on purpose to make her act out, to make her potentially hurt you, because she's stressed. She's anxious. When we're anxious, we don't think properly because our body is on a flight and flight situation. It's, well, you've come into our space, you've come into our face, therefore we want to defend ourselves. It's either you're going to be spat at, hit, or abused. And unfortunately that happened because you got in her face. But I'm so glad that the outcome has come to this, that we are, as your forces, taking no action. But again, there should be no action to be taken. This should have been a misunderstanding. Said, okay, like, you should have took that on board and said, okay, you know, she didn't mean it. It wasn't meant with malice. It wasn't meant as a hate crime. It wasn't meant as a disrespectful mark. And it should have just been dropped. Okay, no harm done. Kind of like, drop your hands off it. Instead, you charged a 16-year-old girl with hate crime. What? But guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments. I will link the Sky News article down below. You can let me know what you think for yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!